Hey, Doc, this is what, year 28, 29 you're with us?
We can never figure it out. I don't know what's going on.
You and Eileen got married what year?
96.
I don't know if you came in 96 or 97 was your first year.
Well, it was the summer, so we could have come that fall.
Yeah. So if you came in 96, well, it doesn't matter. We've missed
4 and 25 is 29.
Yeah, and we've missed 1 year because Eileen got sick with COVID. Hey, anyway, we have these fun together.
Yeah.
We want to talk with you today because we think there's something that you might enjoy, and that is how we got involved in apologetics and scholarship and doing what we do for a living. So first half of this, Gary, let me ask you this. Your journey into Christian apologetics, Christian scholarship, philosophy, what got you started? What led you? What started you on your journey?
2 words, my doubts. So as I fully admit, people think I did it just to help other people, and I hope I do down the line, but the start was totally to work through how I frequently say my doubts were bookended by the deaths of the 2 most important people in my life, and death is a very signal event. And I wanted to know that I would spend eternity with my family members. And so that put me on a search. And I've told this story often, but it's very important. I read a little book, little tiny Bible study book, and the author took only a paragraph and said, if Jesus was raised from the dead and really happened, tomb was empty, then what he taught was true, and Christianity's true. And I thought, fantastic idea, but I don't have a clue if the resurrection's true.
How old were you at the time?
I was in my teens. And somebody might say, well, you're crazy. You can't really be asking those questions in your teens.
13, 18, what?
It was actually, to be honest with you, early teens. And by 15, I had written a 25-page essay for myself, not for anybody, just for me, summarizing what I'd learned on the resurrection so I wouldn't forget it. And by I was 17, I had 1,600 note cards on the resurrection that were well enough evidence that I used some of my doctoral dissertation about 8 years later.
Wow. So you end up doing your doctorate in what?
History and Philosophy of Religion, Michigan State University.
Okay. So you did that. You wanted to investigate the resurrection further.
Well, I made another shot at a dissertation topic, I think, on universalism. And they said, oh, hey, that's pretty cool, but we need you to come back in a week and hone it down. Instead of honing it, I threw the whole thing out, submitted the resurrection, and they accepted it in the very first meeting.
So universalism, that's kind of like an all-encompassing topic, huh?
Yes. Nice.
It's too broad. All right.
Yeah.
So now, are you full-fledged in apologetics and philosophy at that point?
At the time, by that time, I already had the 1,700 note cards, and maybe I gave the wrong year there. I was about 9 years further down the road when I dug in, and I used some of those sources and some of the points that were made in my dissertation, and they had no problem with any of it.
So what did you, at that point, did you determine, what were you wanting to do for a living at that point?
It was pretty narrow. At that point, after 9 years, I just wanted to show that the resurrection happened. And I was sure enough to write my dissertation, but not sure enough to end up having doubts, because I had plenty of doubts after I finished my dissertation.
Did you ever think did you want to be a professor at that point?
You know what? That's a good question. I think it was mixed in my mind. At the beginning, I thought, I think I'd like to be a pastor. And I did county youth pastor. I did pastor for 7 years. But
as a youth pastor?
No, I was just a youth pastor for just the very beginning of that, and the rest I was senior pastor. But my major complaint, no offense to anybody, but my major complaint, I loved pastoring, but my major complaint was I can't shop talk with anybody, and I want to talk to some people about apologetics. So I sent a bunch of resumes out, a bunch, and after 3 years of my last pastoring post, I went into teaching apologetics at a little Bible college in Montana.
So apologetics back then, so we're talking what, the 19, right after World War I, 1921, something like that? How big was apologetics then?
In the early 70s, apologetics was not what it is today. Most of the people doing apologetics, there were some smart ones, there were some really good ones, but they tended to be professors in other fields and pastoral types, and they were all writing kind of pastoral things to their lay people. And I thought we needed more than that.
Who was the biggest apologist back then?
Well, for sure, on the resurrection, I would say at that time, James Orr, who wrote in, well, it depends on which version you read of the date, 2006 or 2007. He wrote a book simply called The Resurrection of Jesus, and Zondervan had republished it. And he was a Scottish professor of theology, and it was a good book, especially on naturalistic theories, most of all on hallucination and legend.
Okay. So
and I ate it up.
All right, so you got this job teaching at a small Christian university. How old were you at that time?
I started teaching in 76.
Okay.
So I would have been 25.
All right. So teaching in 76, and you've been full-time teaching since, right?
I've been a full-time teaching ever since
49 years. 49 years.
And 44 of them starting this fall at Liberty.
Wow. That's pretty good.
But it was resurrection that got me going. And I'm telling you, I didn't solve it quickly. I was in it. Those note cards notwithstanding, I was in it a long time. And I had funny wishes. Like, I didn't have anybody to talk to because none of my friends, my pastor didn't want me to do apologetics. He thought it would cause doubts, and it did. But I was answering my doubts. And I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I thought, I want somebody to kind of knock me on the head, knock some sense into me and say, hey, son, here are the data for the resurrection. I even had a discussion before that time, a discussion with a fellow who came to our camp, our summer church camp, to talk to us. He did a doctor's degree on the resurrection at Princeton. And I thought, surely he'll be able to answer my questions. And after I came up with a list of 20-something questions, finally said, I'm not up on this anymore. You're going to have to check somebody else. And I walked out heartbroken.
How old are you at that? Is this after you got your PhD or before?
This before. It was in between the 1,700 cards and the PhD.
All right. So let me ask you this. Just a few more questions before we stop here. Have you ever doubted?
Ever.
You ever experienced doubt?
Oh, for the first 10 years straight and on and off for the last 10 after that. So on and off for a total of 20 years. They ended just before that second person, my wife, died of cancer. She died in 1995, and I had just stopped the doubts about 1990.
Okay. So let me ask you a personal question. Sure. I know you'll be honest. You ever doubt now?
No.
You experience no doubts?
No. Every once in a while somebody says something and I'll think, that's thoughtful. And it takes about 20 minutes or a half hour. It might be late at night. Next morning I wake up, doesn't even bother me. I'm done with it. Okay. No. So for all intents and purposes, I can honestly say no.
All right. Let's transition to a final topic here. And that is, what would you say to those who, let's talk to those who are interested in doing Christian apologetics. Maybe those who just want to be familiar with it so that they can talk to their neighbors, their colleagues at work, or fellow students. All the way from that, all the way up to they want to be Gary Habermas. They want to be an expert in something, and they want to teach in a university. Let's talk first about the person who, they're not interested in doing this for a living. They just want to become competent and be able to share their faith with others using.
And maybe they have some doubts too?
Yeah.
Well, for sure, on the latter, doubts. I try, takes time sometimes, but I try to answer their questions. And if it's emailing, you may be typing for a long time. If you're talking on the phone, what kills me is this question. You don't know who I am, but can I talk to you for 20 minutes? That's all I need. And I'm thinking, what a joke. Because the first phone call, if you stay as long as they want, I guarantee will be 2 to 3 hours. So, yeah, to help doubters, that's probably my first goal, but I'd like to do it quickly. But I'll give whatever level, I'll try to give them more. And if they just say, oh, here's the kind I like the best, just give me some good books. So I'll give them a good little bib on some good books to read. James Orr would be in that list, by the way, and that's an old book.
So that's for people who are doubting. But okay, so what do you say to the person who wants to use Christian apologetics in evangelism? They want to do that to share with others.
I try to encourage them. I try to say, I might still give them some books to read, but I'll say, I probably would use more popular books. Paul Little,
you still use Paul Little?
It's still used in some schools, required reading.
Okay.
And the last book of his trilogy is How to Give Away Your Faith.
Okay.
And he had just said in that book, and in two others before it, that the resurrection happened and gives reasons for it. But it's not heavy.
Okay.
And it's to encourage evangelism.
What else would you recommend as reading to? And is reading the only thing? But what other readings would you recommend? And yeah, is reading the only thing?
No, not the only thing. Second question first. I know a fellow who is really getting into this and wants to do more, but he drives a lot for work. So he pops CDs in all the time. So I try to recommend you. I start mentioning names, and then I'll be bothered that I mention some of my best friends. But all the guys that teach apologetics today, pop that, CD in there. Answer, what do they say about doubt? What do they say about their questions? How did they get into it? I think you can learn a lot from CDs, or if you do it.
People don't use CDs anymore.
Pardon?
People don't use CDs. I mean, we used CDs. I even used
audio
cassette tapes. Well, use MP3s, podcasts.
MP3 podcasts. Well, I recommend all those because and then now the people who are willing to sit down and look at things, I would give books like people who, to me, the best one, Lee Strobel's Case 4 books.
Yeah, those
best
are good.
Single case that's heavier than a lot of these introductory ones might want, but not as heavy as the heavy one wants. I think they're right there in the middle where people can take them and make application to their own situation and what they want to do with it.
He's such a good communicator, too.
He's an excellent. Well, you know what? Get some MP3s of Lee Strobel and listen to him in the car going back and forth. Yes. And he has such a tender spirit. He's such a kind person. And this is to your question. I asked him several years ago, what do you want to be known as when you die? And I'm thinking, legal guy, apologist. He said he wanted to be known as an evangelist. And I said, really? An evangelist? He said, you betcha, that's where my heart is. So if that's where his heart is, I'm assuming he was thinking that he was writing for those kind of people.
He's a neat guy.
He's one
of those kind of people that when you're around him, he's humble. I don't know that I'd be humble if I sold well over 10 million books, But he is, but he's the kind of guy that when you're with him, there's no ego, and you walk away and you feel good. He made your day better.
There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who subscribe to my YouTube channel. Winners, good people. And those dirtbags who don't. Which one are you?
By the way, good friend of both of ours and Lee Strobel's Mark Middleberg's another guy who uses apologetics. He's got a master's degree in philosophy, and he takes it all, and he wants to be known as an evangelist. Those are just two guys. Alex McFarland
Alex is cool.
Like kind of a evangelist / pastor to go out there, and he's got some pretty good apologetics that he does. All these guys do. Yeah. I'm proud of these guys getting out there and applying it.
Yeah.
Application of apologetics is what we need to be living for to minister.
Frank Turek, Brett Kunkel, folks like that. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right, one final thing. We'll close your part with this. What about someone who wants to go and become like Gary Habermas? They want to teach this, they want to do what you do.
Depending
Public
on where they
speaking
are.
and things like that.
Okay, where are they? Are they just starting it or are they halfway into it?
Well, let's say they're halfway into it. They've already done the thing that you were just saying. They've
I
been
like
reading.
that because I can require heavier books for them. And I would put down yours, Tom Wright's, the one we wrote on the resurrection, Case of the Resurrection. I just finished, 3 of my 4 big books are out. That's heavy, but some of these guys are known to have gotten into it, into those books, so I appreciate it. There's some great stuff out there. And again, I'm going to leave out some good books.
Okay.
But the sharper they are, the sharper the level. A recent book by a scholar named Ware, W-A-R-E, if somebody really wants to jump in at a heavy level, and you better know some Greek. These things, Greg is another one.
So it
These
just depends where they are at the time, right?
Where they are, yes.
Okay. So if they want to teach, though, they need a PhD.
They need what a friend of mine used to call, they need their calling card. They've got to finish their work.
Well, plus, you get a lot more knowledge in a PhD. You really learn how to do research.
But you said too, how long you been doing this? Yeah. I said 44 years at Liberty. That stuff comes from practicing and working. Look at Lee Strobel. Yeah. How long's Lee been writing? How long have you been writing? You'll get in more depth the more you're committed to writing and studying and practicing witnessing. If that's what you're going to take it to evangelism, start practicing it. Hey, you know another one? Mike Licona has had some really good success having little apologetic groups in his home, either evangelizing, because not all the people that come to these have been Christian. Bill Qureshi came when he was not a Christian.
That's true.
And in that same meeting was another guy who was a Buddhist, and they both ended up becoming Christians. That really happens, but maybe have people in a group in your home. If you're good at it, you don't have a group in your home and get destroyed by non-Christians. But take your level and let the level, as I recall, you had one group that was a lot just starting out in their ministry, but you had another group that was more advanced. Mm-hmm. So we can encourage people at different levels, which is what your questions are getting at.
Yeah, we called that the Dream Team.
The Dream Team.
Back then, we're talking, 2002, 2003, where the Dream Team was that basketball team.
And I'd be there during these trips, and I'd be talking to your Dream Team, and I thought to myself, that is the coolest name for a group of, Well,
we started off and we wanted to learn apologetics. We wanted to learn to do it well. And we had David and Marie Wood in that group, and Chris and Christy Cowley and Amy Ponce, Bruce Frazier. There's
some
a guy
guys who are
named Zach.
trained in relevant fields.
Yeah, it was Nabil, David Wood. Yeah, it was fantastic. That was
and now some of these guys are writing. Yeah, they're doing their own stuff. I mean, books and podcasts and MP3s.
Bruce Frazier, it's over in New Zealand doing apologetics. You got David Wood, of course, who's just amazing now.
Yeah.
Nabil Qureshi was amazing when he was alive.
His book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, was such a bestseller. Yeah. That's like one of Lee Strobel's books as far as using apologetics and reaching a lot of people.
So what was interesting about that, and then we'll transition here, since we'll transition to my story. I wasn't even going to host that group in my home. I was teaching at a church on the campus of Old Dominion University. They'd invited me to come in to be a guest speaker. Yeah. And the pastor, Mark Rion, said, "Hey, Mike, I got some sharp students who really want to do apologetics and they need a mentor. What do you think about meeting with them?" And I said, "Well, Mark, let me think about it." At that point, you and I were in the beginning stages of writing the case for the resurrection of Jesus, and I just didn't feel like I had the time, but I asked you about it, and I remember you saying, "Well, Mike, you ought to do it. You never know what kind of spiritual fruit that might produce."
Now, was this the lower level group or the higher level?
The higher level.
Ah.
And it's like David Wood came from that. Nabil Qureshi came from that. Bruce Frazier came from that. I mean, it's
was he the physicist? There was a physicist in your group.
He worked for a software company.
Okay.
back then.
But
So
you had a physicist. I remember that, researcher.
yeah, I'm trying to think who that might be.
I just remember him, meeting him.
And then we had another group of more people. Just they weren't so serious about apologetics. We met them, but they wanted to learn, and so we had a separate group. Like
Well, let me ask you, did anybody from the lower group graduate to the higher group?
That's a good question.
That would show some progress.
Yeah, I don't know. There were some people in both. So I would say that because we covered different things. In the upper group, the Dream Team, we watched a lot of debates together.
Did you?
So everybody would come together. You know, this is almost 25 years ago. We'd meet twice a month, and we everybody throw in $5, $6, and I had an agreement with a really nice pizza joint, and they gave us pizzas, 2 pizzas at a discount, and they were just great pizzas. And so they gave us 2 pizzas, and then we had some buffalo wings and chips and salsa and sodas, and everybody just ate. We hung around for about half an hour and ate, and then we did things like watch debates.
So, something else about that group. You, to your credit, you did not discourage debate in that group. And some of those guys, now a couple were not Christians, the Buddhist and Nabil.
Yeah. He was an agnostic considering Buddhism. Yeah, Zach.
Yeah. So you had some guys answering real questions from their own perspectives, but you could have Christians. I mean, I was in there and saw these guys, they were sharp. And that's very important, I think, for Christians in a garden contest where everybody's knows each other, they trust each other, they're not afraid to talk about their doubts or something they heard. Hey, the other day I heard this critique of the resurrection, and throw it out there, and they go back and forth. Now, hopefully by the end of the night or next week or the next week, the questions are solved, or you could jump in or stay out, depending on where they are. But they grew from that stuff. Even today, my PhD students say the number one thing they learn from are dialoguing with their partners. That kind of sharing is invaluable.
Yeah, we had a good time with that. I remember allowing people who had contrary views, like Nabil, he was a Muslim, and we'd say, hey, you can try to convert us, give us your best case, and things like that. And he knew that we were really going to push back. And likewise, when we would present for our worldview, like the resurrection or something, we knew that the non-believers are going to push back. But we did it in a respectful way to one another. We were spirited. We were passionate about it.
You were.
But the thing is, though, we all knew that we loved one another. We all knew that we respected
and you weren't
and
afraid
loved
to share.
That's right. And we were there to challenge one another, like the iron sharpens iron.
It was out of that we had that well-known meeting among us anyway, between Nabil, his dad, and David Wood.
That's right.
We're all nobody, and I think, as we saw later, you know better about this than I do, because I came and went when I was there for the week. But that was very instrumental, that meeting, in Nabil searching and really getting serious and taking a trip, to Europe and trying to answer the questions and not being able to, and eventually coming to Christ.
That's true.
Just think, it had its basic. What would Nabil say about how influential your group was on him, and that how influential his book was on other Muslims and young people who are,
and
great
I think about David, look at his ministry today. It's he probably is reaching more people than Nabil ever did, through his debates and talking. He's become so big in that way. The way I got involved in apologetics was a little different than yours. It was doubts that got me involved, and those doubts started when I was in grad school. And I can remember, it wasn't anything I was learning. It was just I was doing New Testament. I wasn't even interested in apologetics.
You learned a lot of Greek.
I was doing the Greek. I was focusing on Greek. I took as many Greek courses as they offered. And I had a fantastic Greek professor, Ron Sauer, who is F.F. Bruce's final doctoral student, which is pretty cool. And what a godly man, too. So I'm having doubts just because I'm thinking, I think I've got this relationship with the Lord, but what about people in other religions? Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism,
they have a similar feeling, or they at least they declare it.
Have I just been conditioned to think and believe the way that I am, and is there any real truth? So my roommate, Jeff Jack, said, go see Gary. And I remember, you invited me in your office. I was probably there for only 20 minutes. You shared your minimal facts argument. I wasn't looking for an exhaustive case or anything. I just wanted reassurance of my faith, and the minimal facts that you provided were just awesome. But then later on, after I left my grad studies and completed coursework, then I'm starting to share my faith with others, and I'm getting clobbered. And because they're bringing up all kinds of objections, and I don't have a clue how to answer those things.
After all that Greek study and
I could with the text, but a lot of those have nothing to do with the text.
And they go, that's your text.
Yeah. And so they're giving arguments against the existence of God and things like that. And I don't know how to do it. And I remember calling you. There's no email. And I'm calling you. And I'm so thankful that you took my calls. And it's like, after many hours, countless hours of talking with me, I'm learning this stuff, and you're telling me books, and you're sending me copies of journal articles, and I'm reading these things, and I'm growing in my knowledge, and I'm turning around and I'm sharing my faith with others. And I'm on the road. I'm in estate and financial planning at that point. So I'm a road warrior. I'm going, 40,000 miles a year in the car. And so I'm listening to tapes. I'm listening to cassette tapes. Then I'm practicing. I'm pretending like there's a person in the passenger seat, and they're throwing an objection at me, and I'm practicing how to answer them. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, that's way too long. And I've got to cut this shorter because they're not going to want to listen that long. It's got to be more of a conversation. So I'm practicing and practicing. And so now I'm enjoying it. And then I'm teaching some at my church for adult Sunday school once in a while, or senior high school courses, thinking, I might want to do this for a living. But I remember I finished my master's degree in 2000, and I remember being in your house. And I said, hey, Doc, can I be done now? Can I be done? I got a master's degree in MA in religious studies. I did a thesis. And you said, what do you want to do? I said, I just want to teach in churches. I want to help equip people. Yeah. And you said, you don't want to teach in a university or seminary? I said, no. And you said, well, you're done. I'm thinking, yes, I don't want any more school.
Hey, I got a question for you right during that time. You and I used to talk about this a lot. But I'm asking you now, we did not prepare for this ahead of time. Okay. How many times on the phone and all those conversations were you and I talking, and you would go, okay. This is a really good objection. I'm the skeptic. You're the apologist. No, Mike, I don't have time for that. No, I'm going. Here's my first point. How many mock debates did we do on the phone?
Countless.
Fair to say dozens?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'd say over 50.
Sure, yeah.
And you know what? I mean, that's useful for anybody who goes through that, either listening to them, practicing. But for you, look how much you're doing debates today.
I love doing debates. They're fun.
You're very good at it.
Well, thanks.
I'm very proud of calling you a student. You know what a lot of people don't know? You didn't have me for any class, did you?
No.
But you were my student because I was the director of your master's thesis.
That's right. Yep.
At Liberty. And plus, we had a lot of personal talks, but
then,
that still doesn't make you a student.
There was 15 years that went by between when I finished my coursework and when I finished my thesis. I had put all that time in between. I wasn't even going to finish it, and you encouraged me, finish it, Mike.
Okay, now in the meantime, though, you were using it with lay people, and you were witnessing, and
yes, I was.
Anybody who had a question, you were glad to talk to them. And then what? You decided at that point, I might want to be a professor after all.
No. It was you saying, you're so close, just finish it. And I'm saying, but I'm not going to go any further with my education. I don't care about it. I want to just have a bachelor's degree so people can say, I don't need an advanced degree.
Well, what analogy? I did my 4 volumes by you more than any other encouragement who said, dude, you're going to die in a few years, in a while. And if you don't do this thing, the material's going to die with you. Okay, other way around. Flip back to a few years. No, I don't want to do that. 'Cause that's what I said to you about my 4 books. You pushed me. years earlier I pushed you. Come on, Mike, you can do it, you can do it. I'm just hearing this, realizing for the first time. And you did it from pushing. Later I did it from your pushing. I think that's a neat analogy.
It is kind of neat. Well, looks like we've helped each other.
Pardon?
I think you've helped me more than I've helped you, of course.
To me, first of all, I wouldn't think like that. And secondly, it's totally irrelevant because it's all for the kingdom.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope this has been helpful to you. And yeah, there's just different routes for all of us and the way we do things. And so you might find your way into apologetics and apologetics ministry via a different route. But I hope this has been helpful to you.